Some of my regular listeners may raise an eyebrow when they listen to my guest Kathleen Karlsen this Saturday morning. Kathleen has authored a book called Vocal Medicine, Transformation Through Sound. She also plays a beautiful sounding harmonium. She chants mantras, and Kathleen is leading a small group of musicians called the Shakti Bliss Kirtan Band. Please tune in to learn more. Nice to be with you. My guest, Kathleen Marie Karlsen's primary interests have always been the arts, healing, and spirituality. As a teenager, she began to pursue complementary health and alternative philosophies and ideas in earnest. She began to attend conferences and lectures on everything from Atlantis to Native American prophecies to the Egyptian pyramids to color and music therapies. Kathleen attended several universities after high school and graduated with a bachelor's degree in studio art, a master's degree in humanities with a thesis on the scientific and aesthetic connections between color and sound, and she completed a year of doctoral studies in adult and higher education. That was actually here at Montana State University.
Yep, right here.
She spent over a decade living in intentional communities, Quaker, Sufi, and New Age, eventually meeting her husband Andrew, settling in Bozeman, and having a family of 5 children. Kathleen is the author of almost 200 articles and the book Flower Symbols, The Language of Love. In the last decade, she has held over 70 art exhibits and created nearly 100 educational presentations and workshops. Kathleen loves to share her passion for transformation and the healing power of the arts. Now, you can find more information, and there's a lot of information on the websites. One is called Kathleen Karlsen, and Karlsen is spelled K-A-R-L-S-E-N. Kathleen Karlsen, Karlsen.com, or you can go to ShaktiBlissKirtan.com, which we'll give out later as well. Her phone number, if you want to get a hold of her at some point, that is 406-599-3235, 599-3235. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, it's nice. Definitely nice to have you in the show. Well, I tell you, just going through your website, I think it's already so interesting to talk to you because you have this interest. We're going to talk about the chanting and the harmonium that you brought with you. But there is more to the person. I see your artwork is incredible, beautiful, just beautiful. I saw pictures, and you love to write. I read a few of your blog posts. There's just a lot going on in that noodle of yours.
Yes, there is. One of the things that I really love is to try to bring all of these things together, to try to bring the connection between art and music.
Yeah.
With the chanting right now, I'm almost going down 2 different tracks. So I have the art and the love of everything from mandalas and yantras to more abstract work. And then the music, which my real passion is sacred music at this point, taking the form of Kirtan, which is a Hindu approach to chanting. But bringing those together is something that I would see in my future, bringing the yantras that go with the mantras and trying to create a multimedia kind of experience that brings all of that together. So it's multisensory.
Yes.
So you have what you're hearing, what you're seeing, And there's some of that has been done in the past, like discos, for example. When they bring in light shows and strobe lights, that has a very powerful psychological impact. Mm-hmm. So when you can start to get into combining them, it's great. Right now, it's almost like a trident. That's like a ancient spear like a fork, like a fork. So I'm sort of in the middle. Trying to write and share and teach. And then on the one side of me is the art, and on the other side is the music.
I see. What an outlet. Because you have 5 children, so you must be busy. You have been busy.
Yes.
But you have been able to somehow juggle this with your family life for a while. And now as the children are getting a little older and you're able to have more freedom, you're just blooming, I think.
Yeah, I feel like all of my life, of course, all of the years that I spent with the children, my children at this point are between 14 and 26. So there's 4 boys, and then my oldest is a daughter. So, I was devoted heart and soul for 2.5 decades, with the children, homeschooled children, loved cooking, healthy food, even when the children were in school, and they've been in many different schools and in and out of private schools and homeschooling, was very, very involved in field trips, teaching art in the school system.
Yeah.
And now I feel like all of that was almost prologue, and that's not to denigrate that in any way, but it's just to say that it was all training that got me to where I am now.
Yeah.
So at this point, rather than starting to look at retirement, it's like, wow, now I'm at the starting line, and now I'm looking at, where I'm going in the future. And it's great fun for the kids too, because, they had mom at home for a long, long time.
Yeah.
I worked all the time, but I've always worked at home so that I could go back and forth between, being with the kids and my work.
Yeah.
And, now just really getting out into the community and meeting people like you and, really establishing connections outside of the family.
Yeah.
So it's a fantastic new era for me.
Yeah, it is. It's almost awkward, a little awkward, new. You almost feel like a young child again because you see so many new things and you're kind of uncertain about it. And it's not just easy to move around in it. I have the same thing. I've had to work so much, and for me to be eventually into retail changed a lot about myself too. I had to, learn how to do that and be with people. And I enjoy people, but it doesn't mean it's easy all the time. So it is. It grows, and I think a lot of it, Kathleen, is you feel you're following your heart. I think, and I think because of that, it is your strength and your guiding light, and it is something that inspires you to say, you know what, I really do this with the right reason, and so I just keep plugging along, and all of a sudden you'll find that doors are opening and opportunities are coming, and I believe in astrology, and I had my astrological chart done once when I turned 40. My wife gave it to me as a birthday present, and the person who had done my chart, she said, "Oh, Jacobus's life is going to open up in the second half." So I go like, "Well, I guess I'm there."
That's very funny. I had my mother. My parents are Catholic, and my dad was in the military, so I grew up in a very conservative family. And my mother, in addition to very conservative values, and they were fantastic parents, very, very stable. That she also had a great interest in Eastern things and a great interest in New Age things. So by the time I was a teenager, she actually sent a photograph of our family to a psychic. And one of the things that the psychic said about me was, she will blossom late. Huh. And so it's been a joke between my mother and myself. When I hit 40, 45, I said, "Mom, is it late enough yet?"
Yeah.
So,
I can see that, yeah. And it is, for me, I've seen indeed it's happening. I feel I'm different, but everything before was prologue, right?
Yes.
Prologue. And but you needed all of it. You needed every day and every year and every struggle and there is we all have certain characteristics that we get from our parents, and there is a certain genetic makeup, and there is other circumstances that make us who we are, and there is the accidents and incidents and falling down and getting in fights and whatever it is that eventually get you to the point where you are where you are today. So there is no, people sometimes say, if you could do it all over again, what would you do? I'm going, I guess I'll do the same thing. Because I like where I am today.
Yep.
And I go like, if that was the path I had to take to get here, then I'll do it all over again.
Yeah. And I think for me, because I have been focusing and really emphasizing chanting and kirtan for the last couple of years, it was almost like starting with the hardest thing and then everything else gets easier, because, people say that speaking in public, people are more afraid of speaking in public than they're afraid of death. Mm-hmm. And I think that singing in public, in my opinion, is even further to the right. It's even scarier than just speaking in public. So, once I was terrified when I first started singing. If I knew I was going to be leading kirtan on a Friday night, I would spend from Monday on trying to control my nerves because I knew it was coming. and that, at 7:00 on Friday night, I'm going to have to open my mouth and sing in front of these people,
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's a spiritual practice, so the focus is not necessarily on being
on the details.
You don't have to go into this with a strong music background. I had a music background in terms of playing the piano, and I had some singing in my background, but I never done both at the same time. So, I either sang or I played the piano, but just to try to handle those two at the same time was a big step.
Mm-hmm.
So, now that I've been leading events for almost a couple of years, it'll be a couple of years in June.
Yeah.
Now, then, like this, coming and talking to you, it's like, of course, I mean, if I can chant in front of other people, I think I can talk. I think talking is easier.
Well, because now you really talk from experience.
Yeah.
It's one thing to tell a storybook, but to actually say, and then one night I had these people doing this and this, it all adds to the story. Your experiences just become part of your life.
Yeah.
And it is, you start to really enjoy every moment. Yeah. That's what I feel.
Yeah.
And listen, I do public speaking, not all the time, but in a way. See, this to me is not even public speaking, even though I'm on the radio and talking to thousands of people. But it is for me, I'm just sitting here with you, and that's what I look at. I just got to make sure that when the break hits that I stop. But otherwise, but doing a lecture and with slides and to try to do a presentation, it's a whole different ballgame. And I think if you're totally not nervous at all, if you're totally that comfortable 100% that you have to feel no nerves, I don't know if that's natural either. I think it's always when you stand in front of a group, am I doing everything right?
Yeah.
Did I close my zipper?
Right. Except no one can see you.
Something a guy always thinks about.
No, the radio is actually a good way to start. A lot of the educational presentations that I do are for clients who are at a distance, because here we are in Bozeman, Montana. So when I do educational presentations, it's often WebEx or Google Hangout, and, there might only be 5 people, or there might be 30, but it's good and it's bad. The positive thing is that it's not as nerve-wracking as having people sitting right in front of you and you feel them looking at you, but at the same time, you also don't get the same feedback. So, especially if you're at a distance and people are muted. So here, we may have thousands of people who are listening on the radio, but if you crack a joke, you don't hear whether they laugh or not.
It's true.
So you have to sort of get used to that as well. So I think it goes both ways.
Well, I'm easily entertained by myself, so there's not and I mean it in a good way. But there's times when I say something and I kind of have to laugh and nobody else cares. But I thought it was really funny because there is something in the back of my mind why this happened, why I said it. I think of something and then I say it, and the connection is funny. But I think, first of all, you have to enjoy yourself when you do that. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right. If you listen back, it has to be entertaining for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I like to get some things out of the way as far as us talking. Shakti, bliss, Kirtan. Can you explain all 3 words to us, please?
Okay. So Shakti is the energy behind life. So if you think of life in a duality, like a masculine, feminine, yin and yang, then you have the energy that's the container that is directing, and that would be more the masculine energy. And then you have the unformed energy, which is the Shakti. So this is the energy that's pervading all of creation, and then it is active in the material world by taking a particular form. So that's Shakti. So it's the goddess energy, Okay. So that's one of the things in the Kirtan, which we do. So Kirtan is a musical gathering, and people do interpret it in different ways. It's Sanskrit, a Sanskrit word. Some people will say it just means call and response. Some people will say it just means a musical gathering, just getting together. Sand Kirtan is the full term. So it's just getting together and using music and chanting as a devotional practice. So it can be devotion in a particular tradition. A lot of what we do is in the Hindu tradition. We do some in the Buddhist tradition, and then some are in the Christian tradition. So, every now and then, I usually like to do at least one song in English.
Okay.
each time that we do a kirtan, which is about 90 minutes usually. And those are often in a Christian tradition such as St. Patrick, for example, has beautiful poetry that is praising God in nature. Okay. So it might be, more non-denominational, but praising God in nature, or even the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is a concept that is in religions around the world, spiritual traditions, indigenous traditions. So the idea that there's an energy that is, pervading all of matter. So we have a chant called "Breathe Through Me," which is Holy Spirit, breathe through me. And when I was practicing with the group, so we have a group of 5 right now, and when we were all together and I would introduce a new chant and say, hey, what do you think of this? Do you think we should do this? So when I sang that one, I said, yeah, do you think, Holy Spirit is a little too Christian or too specific?
Yeah.
And so we tried it with sacred fire and living water and, a number of different terms that would also mean the energy that is pervading life. So what you're doing is you're bringing that kind of positive energy into your life. And it's in the unformed state. It's in the Shakti state. And then you are the one, as a creator in your own life, who is determining what form that will take. Is that energy going to go into your relationships, into a family? Is it going to go into, bettering yourself in terms of education, into your career? So you're choosing how to qualify that energy.
I see.
But it's all generic. But at any rate, as we sang the song, they said, no, do the Holy Spirit. It just sounds much better with that. Huh. So sometimes we'll do those kind of songs. So those are the 3 main traditions. Occasionally, I've done things that were in the Jewish tradition. There's beautiful names of God in the Old Testament. Adonai, Elohim, Shekinah. And so every now and then we'll do something like that. At Christmas, we've thrown in Christmas carols.
Yeah.
So there's a variety there. But Shakti, bliss, Kirtan, the bliss is just the idea that when you have that energy flowing, it is, ideally, it is a very blissful experience. Mm. So you feel the energy just as though you were plugged into an electric socket. Mm-hmm. And it's a way for the energy to start flowing. People get the same kind of thing with breathing. If I sit down, I use the heart math biofeedback program. If I sit down and breathe and you continue that and you're able to really concentrate and keep that, as a steady practice for 10 minutes or half an hour, whatever, then I would notice that oh, wow, this is the same feeling that I get with chanting. So there's different ways to do it, but if you love music, if you enjoy singing, then it's a fantastic way to get that feeling doing something that you love.
Yeah. Huh. Very, very good. Thanks for explaining that, because this is the red line running through the show. Shakti, bliss, Kirtan. Now, by the way, you had a real nice article in the Ruckus, the Friday edition to the newspaper on March 8th, beginning of this month. And I thought it was very positive and very nice. I thought so.
Yes, Rachel did a great job.
Yeah. So for those of you, it was really a nice article. Look, that is the music starting. It means we're heading a break right now.
Okay.
So anyway, it's really nice to have you in the show.
Thank you very much.
Is.
Great to be here.
Thanks for reaching out and saying, this is what we should do. And I really enjoyed it. I went to one of the sessions, and we can talk about that when we come back. Folks, Kathleen Karlsen, my guest, as we are talking about what she does, about singing, chanting, and we're gonna do some demonstrations over that and let you listen to how that sounds. So stay tuned. We will be right back.
Don't forget to breathe while you're listening to Gesundheit with Jacobus. Stay tuned. There's more.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Gesundheit with Jacobus. I am your host, Jacobus Hollewijn. The voice you hear singing is Kathleen Karlsen on one of her recordings, and she's actually coming out with a CD pretty soon. Is that correct, Kathleen?
This summer.
This summer. Wow. Perfect. Is Andrew helping you with that?
Yes, he is.
That's good. So these are chants that we hear. This is an example, and this is with music.
Yes.
This is with music in the background with other instruments. That's what I should say.
Right.
But there is also some that you have that are solo with your harmonium.
Right. Yeah, a lot of what I have on the website at this point, and on Facebook, Instagram as well, are minute mantras. Because for one thing, on Instagram, you can only have a 60-second video or a 60-second audio track. And also, I have found that people are very, very busy. And sometimes all they really need is they want to hear the chant one time through, and then they can go on about their day and they can, sing it to themselves. And if they forget how it went, they go back and they listen to 1 minute again.
I see.
So a lot of them are a minute, and then I have 3 tracks that were recorded here in town in a studio that are fuller tracks, anything from 2 or 3 minutes to 10 minutes or so.
All right, good. I really I really enjoy it. Absolutely. I mean, I didn't know exactly what to expect. I went to, when was it, the last one that we did?
That would be March 9th, so it was the day after that newspaper article.
Okay, that's right, yes. And we came, and it was very nice, my wife and I, and we participated and saw some faces we knew, and it was very nice, very, very pleasant. And it was about an hour and a half, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And it says over here, why chanting? What does this mean to you? Obviously, this started at a long time ago for you. The chanting, there was something that triggered in you. You heard it once, and then you said, this is what I want to do. And the way you went about it, you also describe it in your book. And by the way, your book is called Vocal Medicine, Transformation Through Sound, an Introduction to Mantras, Chanting, and Kirtan, Kathleen Karlsen. In your book, you're talking about how you would get out early in the morning and drive somewhere to wherever is a trailhead and park your car and chant in your car.
Right. Yeah, that was great fun.
Was it
in
really?
fact, this morning coming here, because Jacobus and I had to meet here about 6:45 this morning to get ready for the show. I'm not out. I chant at home now, so I'm not out early in the morning as much. And as soon as I saw, it was still a little dark, and as soon as I saw the lights of Bozeman, it's like, oh yeah, this is what it was like when I used to chant. So what I did is, when I first started, I would go in the car, and I didn't have a harmonium then. And, now I really love to play with the harmonium. So those things almost go hand in hand for me now.
Yeah.
But at that time, I had some CDs, and I had Spotify, and I could go out, and I could park somewhere. So I would get up, and I would be there between 4 and 5 in the morning, and especially in the winter, it was still dark. And I would park over by the M, for example, or at the base of Drinking Horse, or over at the trailhead for Sipes Canyon. Sometimes I would park, there were some subdivisions being built up on a hill out near Spring Hill. There's a new subdivision, so I would park there. So I was either looking at the mountains, or I was looking out over the lights of the city. And then I would chant, and I would be there for an hour, 2 hours. And so the day would start,
Really?
and the sun would come up over the mountains, or, it would go from, darkness and the lights of the city. And it was really stabilizing for me in my life at that point. There was a lot going on, a lot of transition going on in my life. Kids growing up, and me trying to shift from the career that I had been working with my husband. We had a multimedia business together, which I now own, and he has a full-time job with a software company in town. So there was a lot of shifts happening, and it was just fantastic just to go there every morning and sit there, as the sun came up. Wow. And it was there were some funny things that happened, because I didn't realize at the time that a friend of mine, I said, well, I've noticed that sometimes, like, the police will circle by, especially if I was parked at the M or Drinking Horse.
Yes.
And I'd be, sitting there in this car, in the dark, and I didn't understand why. She said, Kathleen, she said, they're watching those places. They wonder what the heck you're doing. Because,
Yes.
Like, are you dealing drugs? What is going on here?
Yeah, of course. But, I understand from their point of view. I know it's funny because you got nothing to hide. See, that's why you laugh, because you have nothing to hide. So that's good.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So then I started moving around. I would chant at one trailhead for a while, and then move to another one, and sort of get around town.
Yeah.
It's
funny, there are people who sell raw goat's milk, right? And you're not allowed to sell raw milk in the state officially. So you see these practices. It's somewhere in a shed and just go there and leave your money and grab what you need. And, it's all this secretive stuff. It's ridiculous. But sometimes you have that, and there's no malintent whatsoever.
Right.
But it's you want to be careful. People don't see you, hear you, don't know about it. It's only the select few that know about it. So I can understand that it's funny for you to think about it. My God, I'm just chanting, I'm trying to bring peace in myself and to the world,
Yeah. And, it evolved over time after, I spent a summer into the fall, the winter, and by the next summer, my husband had actually helped me get a harmonium for my birthday, which is in November. And then I started taking lessons. So by the following summer, so it was about a year when I would go out in my car and chant like that. And then by the following summer, I was learning to play the harmonium. And so I tried it in the car, but it's very awkward, so, try to play a musical instrument in a car.
Yeah.
So then I started practicing at home, but, we've had anything from 2 to 4 kids living with us, over the last couple of years. And I was trying to find a place in the house. So we have a pantry that's under our stairs. And in the back of the pantry, there was a refrigerator, and there was a freezer, and there was a litter box for the cats.
Yeah.
And that was the only place in the house that I could find that I could practice. So I literally moved the refrigerator and the freezer out to the garage, put the cat litter at the other end of the pantry, and we insulated it. We had to put drywall and sound insulation, acoustic tiles, because the harmonium is a very powerful instrument.
Yes.
And so you have to sing, if you're just playing acoustically, you have to sing fairly loudly over the harmonium. Mm-hmm. So every place that I would chant in the house, the entire family could hear it. There was like nowhere they could go to get away from to get away from me chanting.
Yes.
So we insulated it, and I practiced there under the stairs. I call that my Harry Potter phase, because I was chanting under the stairs. And then eventually, we had about a year when 2 of the older kids were living on their own. And then we have a little room that's not really a bedroom. It's like a little bonus room, that's sort of off of another room in the basement. And then I moved in there. So, so now I have a space, and it's
really
fantastic.
Kind of own.
Oh, it's really nice, because it's, there's several doors between that. It's like a little storage room. So there's several doors between that and the rest of the house. So I can go there.
No windows?
There's one window, yeah.
Is that in the room where you also paint and where you do your artwork?
No, it's not big enough for all that.
Okay.
No, but I do chant there. In fact, that's when I do record the things that I put online. I record there because it's very insulated. It's a basement room, so there's a lot of sound insulation. But it's fantastic now to have this place where I could go any time of the day or night.
Well, I know you brought your harmonium with you, and I would love to let people listen to it. I've watched it when I came on March 9 to the Kirtan. But do me a favor, because we don't have TV here. Explain to people what is an harmonium, about size-wise, what it looks like, what are we looking at over here. Can you describe it? And I'll move your microphone if you have.
Okay, so let's see. It's a keyboard instrument, so it's 2.5 octaves. There are some that are even smaller, 2 octaves, and some that are larger, like 3. So this is sort of a mid-size. It is, it's almost like a keyboard with an accordion, but the pumping, the bellows is in the back. So there's a little keyboard.
Well, to me, it looks like a mini organ.
Yes,
it looks
is
like a mini church organ, but it's only, 2 feet wide or something?
Yep, only 2 feet wide.
2
and
feet
maybe
wide
16
and maybe
inches deep, 20 inches
foot
deep,
and a half,
like
16 inches deep. And it's beautiful, medium brown wood. I don't know what kind of wood it is.
It's wood, it's all acoustic.
It's all acoustic, and it has some, register panels on the bottom. Right there, you can pull on those, and
there's stops, just like you would have on an organ. So there's one stop. The first one is the bass, and the second one is the treble. So it's a double reed system. So this is not a struck instrument like a piano. It's more like a saxophone. So what happens is when you pump the bellows, so you're only playing with one hand.
The bellow is what?
So the bellow is it opens up. And then you have to pull it with your hand, so you're squeezing it, and then it pushes air through the instrument.
That's why it looks like an accordion.
Right.
So
that's
for
the
people looking
accordion
at
part.
it, but it only opens up on one end. You handle that. You play the keyboard with your right hand, and you pull the bellow. Is that what you call it? With your left. So
Right.
your hand.
And you can do it the other way. If you're left-handed, then you can switch it,
You
and you can
switch the
pump
bellow.
with your right.
Oh,
and, so you can play with
okay.
either hand.
Okay. You have to switch that.
But I'm right-handed.
Yeah.
So and there's a what you call this, like a grill on the top, so you can look in and see where the keys.
Like a piano.
Yeah, like a piano.
You can see the piano tone.
And you can use it to damp the sound a little bit. So I actually have a piece of glass that I had made that fits in to try to make it a little calmer because because I don't have a Broadway strength to my voice, so to try to tone it down a little bit.
So it's really that loud.
I mean, I could play it for you without the glass, and you can hear.
This is glass, or there's glass on the bottom.
So there's a glass piece, and then there's a wooden piece on top of that.
All right, so hold on. Let me get the microphone up. I just want to have them up anyway, that people have an idea. But
the stops in the front. You can also use them. So one is bass, one is treble. So there's a treble reed and a bass reed. Okay. So when you have both of those, usually you'd have both of those open so that the sound blows across both.
It's richer.
Yeah, and you can put them, the further you pull them out, the more sound, the more air you're going to get. And then depending on the size of the harmonium, they often have a drone. So I have a C-sharp drone and a G-sharp drone.
That means
but
nothing.
some harmoniums would have
mean?
more. What that means is if I pull that out and play, then there's a continuous sound.
Okay.
And then you can play on top of that. But I'll pump it hard and you can hear how loud this thing can get. So it's a lot of sound out of a relatively small instrument.
Yeah, wow. I better turn the microphone on. Maybe the neighbors start complaining. Yes. So it's we're looking at a keyboard. It looks really beautiful ivory. It looks like ivory, and the what do you call the black ones? Well, whatever they are. It looks like a piano, 2 feet wide, about 16 inches deep. And how high is it? Because it can rest on your lap.
Well, no, it's really cool because it collapses. So some harmoniums are just as they are, but this harmonium actually folds into itself.
Folds into itself.
Yeah. Wow. So there's levers on the side that you push in, and then the top folds down into a wooden case.
Okay.
And then the bellow flips over, and becomes like a little suitcase. Really? So when I first got this, because I was not, I didn't know much about the harmonium at that point. I just know that, I needed to learn how to play this. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
So when I first got it, I opened up the box and I looked at it and I thought, well, where is it? Like, where's the keyboard? I didn't know how to open the thing to actually get to the keyboard. Actually, my son and we bent one of the metal pieces,
God.
Trying to figure out how to open the thing.
They cheated me out of the keyboard.
They forgot the keyboard part.
So, by the way, before I want people listen to it, how did you get it? Where did you get it? What town?
So I bought this. There's it's the Bava company, Bhava. And so this is called a mini Bava because it's one of their smaller size harmoniums. But they're all made in India. I don't know that there's any place in this country where they're actually produced. So they're made in India, but because the standards in India for musical instruments are not as high as the standards in this country, it's actually refurbished before it's sold. So it's new. No one else has ever owned it, but it's already been refurbished. So they bring them over here, bring them up to an American standard, tune it. You can tune it to 440 or you can tune it to 432 if you want to do. So 440 is the standard concert tuning. So if you want to be able to play easily with many instruments, that's a good tuning. But then there's also the 432, which is a little different. It has to do with the solfeggio tones. So people who are really into music healing, who believe that particular frequencies are more healing, might tune it to that frequency and then play it with that. And then all the other instruments around them, would have to retune to a different frequency. But this is 440.
440.
So A 440 is what it means. So, when you hear people playing, I can play an A. when you hear at the beginning of an orchestra, and
Yeah.
everybody,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
what everybody's
Yeah,
tuning
yeah,
to.
yeah,
So the
yeah,
violin's tuning to that, and, the guitar's tuning to that, whatever.
Huh. Wow. So it's impressive. Until I saw you with it, I never saw one before.
Right.
Yeah.
And I had never seen one until probably 3 years ago. It was the first time that I saw someone actually playing a harmonium and chanting. And I thought, wow, that is really cool.
Because it really sounds like Indian music now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the whole idea.
Right.
It really, so all you need is, Marius is playing the tabla, right? And Andrew is playing some kind of a drum, and you have different...
Voodoo drum.
Say it again?
Andrew is playing...
Voodoo drum?
No, Udu. EDU. He's playing an Udu drum.
Okay.
And that, I think it's Nigerian.
Okay.
So it's like a big gourd.
Yeah.
His is made of hard epoxy.
I
It's
first thought
not
he
made
was
of
holding
clay.
a vase.
Yeah, no, it looks like a huge flower
Vase,
vase.
yeah.
Exactly.
Vase,
So he plays
vase,
that.
vase.
And that one is being used more because the tabla that Marius Michael George plays is a very complex instrument. When I went down to Boulder and I was attending some classes at the Kirtan Leadership Institute there that Mike Cohen runs an institute there, and he had a tabla player who came and was going to accompany the students. We were all going to do a kirtan together. And the tabla player said, well, when I play in the actual kirtan, I can't play my tabla because I've only been studying for 5 years and my teacher doesn't think I'm ready to play it in public.
Really?
Yeah. So, I mean, people can spend a decade learning that instrument. So, it's an interesting instrument because there's tonality. So it's a drum with tonality. Usually there's at least 2, sometimes 3, but there's a lot of different patterns, very complex.
Really?
Indian raga.
It seems
patterns.
like a lot of fun to play that thing.
Yeah,
But
it looks like bongos, but it
Yes.
actually is played in a much more complicated fashion. So we have a tabla player, and then kartals. So those are like the mini
bells.
like
or
yeah,
something.
well they're like mini. You wouldn't call them a tambourine. It's just a round metal piece that you hit against each other.
Yeah,
it's one of the oldest instruments known to man. Every culture has something that's like a hand cymbal.
But
so
what was the
wooden or
difference?
metal.
What is the difference with what she was holding and what Michael George was holding? He was also using these at the end of a song or beginning of a song.
Yep. No, it's the same.
It's
It's the
exact
same
same.
thing.
Okay,
it's the
good.
same thing.
Yeah.
There's just different, different size, different metals, different tones.
Yeah.
So Mahima Giri is playing kartals, and that is very traditional. It's a very nice metallic, very light metallic sound.
It is. It's very
So
nice.
she keeps rhythm with that. And then we've had Letitia Iningwas has been playing with us a lot in the course of the last year. So sometimes we'll have violin or flute. My husband also plays recorder.
Yeah.
Every now and then we've had someone else play with us. Bruce Beckfar down in Livingston will play with us when we're in the area there. And a beautiful guitar.
Yeah, he's quite the artist.
Yeah. So it can be played with a lot of different instruments, but the harmonium, tabla, and kartal are probably the most sort of the core of the Indian.
It is. So not the sitar. The sitar, I mean, what was his name again?
Ravi Shankar.
Ravi Shankar, there you go. He played the sitar. I thought that also is an indicator,
Yes.
big one in Indian music, right?
Well, there's a woman in town, Amelia Huerta. She can play sitar, and she's come and played with us for fun. But I think she's traveling quite a bit right now. She's the only one in town I know. I have heard that there is another sitar player, but it gets the more instruments you involve because it is very meditative. It's very the point of it is really a meditative practice. It's a sound therapy or sound meditation. And I have not been experienced with leading a whole band, that kind of thing. It tends to be a little more meditative if we keep it a little bit simpler. So there are kirtan bands out there that, there's 6, 7, 8, 9 people up on a stage playing in a festival, playing kirtan music.
Right.
But it takes a lot of mastery to be able to do that, and I'm definitely
To all be harmonious and to all be on the
to all
same
be
page.
together, and for everyone to have the same intention, for everyone to be trying to create the same experience, and there's a huge variety in kirtan music. So if you ever get a chance to see the movie Mantra, which played here actually in Bozeman, I think it might be out on DVD now. But it goes through and really shows the variety. There are people who are taking mantras, and it's almost like rap music. And then there's other people who are very, very traditional Indian. So call and response is the tradition in India, where someone is the leader and they sing a line and then you sing back.
Yeah.
But there are also others who do kirtan more as a sing-along. So Yogananda, for example, when he came to the U.S. and was trying to introduce this as a practice for Westerners, he wrote a lot of beautiful songs in English, and they're more hymn style. So they're more rather than singing a line and repeating a line and singing a line and repeating a line. Some of them are like an entire verse or an entire page, and then you repeat it as a song.
Okay.
So we sort of do something in between. We'll often do one or two songs that are call and response, and then a lot of songs that are just sing along, and you just sing whenever you're comfortable, as much as you want, as little as you want.
Before we go to the break, would you mind playing a few songs? No, you don't have to sing if you don't want to sing, but if you want to, go ahead. But just to let people listen to the sound.
Will you be able to pick it up?
What's that?
The microphone will pick it up from here.
Oh, I'll move with the microphones. Are you going to sing with it?
All right, yeah, sure, I can sing with it. So this is a very simple chant, Sita Ram. And Sita and Ram are divine consorts who are, Ram is the hero of the Ramayana, which is a Hindu epic.
Sita Ram, Jai Jai Ram, 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 Sita Ram, Jai
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to that second hour. I appreciate you tuning in today. Hopefully you enjoyed that little demonstration that my guest Kathleen Karlsen just did on her harmonium, because it's one thing to talk about it, it's another thing to actually hear the instrument. And if you missed it, we'll probably play a little bit more as the show progresses. We are discussing with her Kirtan, which is singing together spiritual songs. In this case, these are songs that are, well, I would say primarily spiritual. Good morning, Kathleen.
Good morning.
How are you?
Great.
You sing a lot of them in Sanskrit or in for India language, Buddha kind of talking
Eastern.
to Buddha, Eastern. There you go. Yeah, not like Eastern United States, but Eastern. It's a very interesting topic, and as I mentioned in the very first hour in my promo, I said some people may kind of raise an eyebrow. What's Jacobus doing now? Why are we not talking about health? Well, this has to do with health. This is spiritual health. This is for you chanting mantras and bhajans and whatever we call these hymns has really pulled you out of situations in your life where you ended up finding peace, and it kind of opened up the doors for you for what you're doing today. It has been you have truly found your passion, and you write about it in your book. She came out with a book recently. Where is it available? It's available in Barnes and Noble
and Barnes
and Amazon. Okay, is it locally in local Barnes and Noble as well?
No, online.
Online. But it is called Vocal Medicine, Transformation Through Sound, an introduction to mantras, chanting, and kirtan. And KathleenKarlsen.com is the website where you can read more about what she does. Karlsen is spelled K-A-R-L-S-E-N. So Kathleen with a K, Kathleen Karlsen, Karlsen. Just go and check that information. I hope you do. You'll learn more. She has a very interesting website because not only does it tell something about herself, it explains more about the chanting, but also it shows a blog where she likes to write thoughts and feelings and insights that she has, and she is spontaneous about that and very open. I have to say, very nice, very well written. And there is beautiful pictures of your painting. That is, by the way, a whole other hobby, would you say? Or is it really a job? Is it a profession that you have?
It was a job from 2001 to 2008. Okay. And then when the economy crashed at that point, it was hard to sell art. So at that point, that was actually when I started doing more with multimedia and earning a living that way.
Yeah.
So now I'm getting back into actually promoting and, looking for galleries to sell in, looking for ways to reproduce the art. So just really getting back.
Is it complicated, difficult? Is it difficult to promote it to people?
Well, in Montana, I would say.
Really?
Because, Montana, when I have met with art consultants and interior designers, a lot of the art, a lot of what people are looking for that come to Montana that want to purchase original art is Western art. So my art is not Western art.
No, it's not, but it is very colorful and very beautiful. And it is, it's there. When I look at it, it just feels good. It's not like jagged or in a way that you go repulsive or anything. Sometimes you see that. Your art is beautiful, very colorful, very happy. It looks happy to me.
One of the things recently I was doing a painting, and this connects back to what you're saying about, why are we talking about art and music, on a show that's related to healing. And I had a very strange experience. Oftentimes when I do the art, what I usually do is I just take a moment before I start to paint. And I try to center. Sometimes I'll say a prayer. I'm very fond of praying to angels. I really love the concept of angels. And so what I'm looking for is for something to come through that is uplifting, that is happy, And so then I'll put down a layer of paint. It's usually very, very fluid paint. And then I might go back a day later, and there's another layer, and then another layer. And so there was a painting that I was developing, and I had a back problem. And as the painting developed, all of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, this is a picture of a spine. It was a spine, except it wasn't straight. It was misaligned. And so, it wasn't a serious back problem, but it was the kind of thing where just in normal life, it was no problem. But if I started weightlifting, doing yoga, then I could feel it. And it bothered me that it hadn't gone away. And it was like a year. So it occurred to me that this painting was of a spine, but it wasn't a healthy spine. So I'm not one of those artists that paints something and then gets upset, and destroys my paintings.
No?
So, no. Like you hear about that, classical artists, and they we wish that they hadn't destroyed those 300 paintings.
Yeah.
So I haven't been like that. I rarely discard a painting. But this one, I really thought about it, and I thought, wow, this is a picture of my spine. But it's not aligned properly, and therefore I don't want to put that image out, because what I want to put out for other people to see is something that will be harmonious, something that will uplift them. So then I decided, well, if this is an outpicturing of what's going on with me physically, I don't want to have surgery. I don't, I didn't even go and see a doctor. It wasn't that serious, but it was a hassle. So I decided, well, maybe what I could do is just do virtual surgery on my own spine and see what happens.
Yeah.
So I took the painting, and I said it was a large painting. And so I set it in the room, and then I went in the kitchen. I got the sharpest knife I could find, said a prayer, and decided, okay, well, I'm going to straighten out the spine on this painting. And so I literally cut it out, and then I realized, well, I couldn't really do this. A painting, it was dry, I couldn't move it.
Yeah.
So I actually cut out and left, there was beautiful colors blended in the background. So I left all of that. And then as I was doing this, I thought, I was just consciously, okay, I am removing from this symbolic representation of my spine what's going on in my back.
So.
And literally, within, it felt better. It was significantly better immediately. And 2 or 3 days later, it was gone, completely gone after an entire year. And to the point that I had forgotten about it. And then I found this painting that, I had cut apart in the garage. I thought, oh my gosh, that's right. Like a year ago, I used to be having a back problem.
Huh.
So, so you can use music. It's the same thing when you're chanting.
That's an incredible story.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, amazing. Not incredible. It's an amazing story.
I am just grateful that I have absolutely.
And
no
I want to
back
ask you.
problems
So
now.
did you take the pieces out of the painting, or did you cut them out and align them?
Nope, no. I cut them completely out.
The ones that were out.
Literally,
the ones that were off.
Literally discarded that part of the painting. And of course, I can't salvage the painting because it was a large part of the painting. So the painting was destroyed. Yeah. But it's the same thing when you're chanting. So, we are always qualifying everything that is moving through us. So that's one of the beauties of if you go to a kirtan and, there's, however many people, 5, 10, 20, people chanting in the room together, each one is has the opportunity to qualify the sound and the energy that is moving through them in whatever way would be of greatest benefit for them. So it's a fascinating thing because it's an individual practice and yet it's a group practice at the same time.
Yeah.
You're synchronizing with the other people there, you feel a connection, and it is very different. I mean, I could have just kept chanting in my car or kept chanting under the stairs, with a harmonium at my house, but there is a very different experience when you're with other people, and there's, a lot of scientific research now being done into the healing power and the impact on the physical body as well as the emotional and spiritual of a group practice like that.
Huh. Wow. 522-8255. 522-TALK is the number. Kathleen Karlsen, my guest this morning. We are talking about her book, Vocal Medicine, Transformation Through Sound, an introduction to mantras, chanting, and kirtan. The book just came out this month, and you can get it on Amazon or you can get it on Barnes & Noble's website, whichever one you prefer. She is here today. There will be monthly kirtan sessions that you do. Now, the last one you did at Yoga Motion is when we were
Yes.
there. Is that a regular set thing that you go to Yoga Motion, or people need to go to your website, KathleenKarlsen.com or Shakti Bliss Kirtan.com? And Shakti, let me spell it all to you. It's SHAKTI, Bliss, BLISS, and Kirtan, KIRTAN, and you can .com, and then you can also find it on Facebook, right?
Yes.
And that's where you keep everything up to date.
Right.
If there is another
Keep all the
session
events.
going on.
Yes.
Because there's also people in Livingston who listen to the program who probably would like to know when you're coming back to Livingston. And you mentioned that
Autumn equinox. We'll be back there. I think it's September 21st, but it's autumn equinox.
that's a
whatever that is.
long time from now.
Yeah, I have everything planned out for the year. So,
You do?
Yeah, at the beginning of the year, I set up all of the major events for the year, all of the events where I'm asking, multiple musicians to play with me. So, yes, so we have once a month at Yoga Motion Wellness Academy. So that will be April, May, and June.
So is that the first weekend of the month or the second weekend of the month?
It's the second Saturday, which varies a little. So, somewhere in April, it'll be the 13th. I can't remember exactly what
That's
it
right,
is in
because the
May.
6th is the first one. Yeah. 13,
And then,
okay.
and then we do other events. There's one coming up this Thursday. So that would be April 4th. That's at Montana Lotus Center. So they are sponsoring.
Where's that at?
That is on 7th Street, right near Santa Fe Reds, the next block in towards town.
Okay.
So that one is 7 to 8 o'clock on Thursday. They are sponsoring that. So that is a free community event.
Wow.
That'll be about 15 minutes of an introduction that I'll give, and then about 45 minutes of chanting.
So, nice.
So, yeah, different things going on, a lot going on.
And the whole band will come and show up, or just you?
That will be
you and Andrew?
Tavla. So that will be Marius, Michael George, and my husband Andrew, and me. So it'll be the Shakti Bliss trio that night.
Shakti Bliss Trio. There you go. Almost sounds like a cocktail drink or something.
Yeah, the Shakti. I have on my license plate. My license plate
Yeah,
says
so it was
Shakti.
Shakti.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when one of my teenage sons, when I first got that license plate, he read it and he said, "Shake it." He said, "Why does your license plate say shake it?" But it doesn't. It's spelled SHAKTI. When my father saw it, he said the same thing. "Why does your license plate say shake it?"
That's right.
So it's
Isn't
an
that
unusual
funny?
word.
Yeah.
And, in our mind, we just switch it to make it something familiar, like,
Yeah.
shake it and bake it or
Yeah,
something.
shake and bake. That's right. Because when I was going quickly through your songs, and I thought, why did she sing a song about gate?
Oh, gate.
Gate.
Gate, paragate. Exactly.
That's what we just played earlier.
Right.
Gate. Oh, gate. Anyway, it's kind of funny. So just to introduce people to the idea of mantras. What are mantras?
So mantra is a worded formula. So, a mantra, you can think of it like a tagline. It's like a spiritual tagline. So, Nike is what, just do it. So anything that you repeat constantly. So in marketing, they're trying to get everyone to know their tagline, know their logo, and to constantly, it's something that is catchy in effect. So a mantra is a spiritual formula. So you can do a mantra that's related to peace or related to freedom. Some people will get specific mantras if they have a spiritual teacher, and the teacher determines that this is something that they need to heal in their psychology or their emotional world, or a characteristic they need to develop, and they'll get a mantra related to that particular one. So when it gets down to the health level, in Sanskrit, there are different vowels. So Sanskrit is considered to be one of the original languages, which is a language where the sounds are closely connected to the actual vibration or the sound of that in the material universe. So like onomatopoeia is like the word cuckoo, the word, kush, squash, rush, a word that sounds similar to the action or the thing that you're describing. So different syllables. Ah, for example, is a syllable that is opening for the heart. So on the physical level, it's good for the circulation, for the lungs, and for the heart. So a lot of words, namaha, for example, means I bow or I give honor to, and it has that repeated namaha. And then like Lalita is a goddess. So there are people who think that it's not just this Hindu religion or Hindu mythology or however you want to look at it, but actually the rishis, who were the Hindu sages, who may have spent an entire lifetime meditating in a cave using mantras, determined that particular mantras would be for the hormonal system. Particular mantras might be for the nervous system or for the heart and circulation. So it's happening on many levels. You can also do mantras. There are Ayurvedic mantras that are specifically for different health issues. So you can do a mantra that's specifically for a health issue. So that's one way to use it. Another way is a devotion. So if you have like all of the pantheon of Hindu gods and goddesses, I had the same thing growing up in the Catholic Church. The pantheon of saints.
Yeah, you bet.
So if you have a favorite saint, and people might have a favorite god or a goddess, and one of the things about that is you can choose one who has characteristics that you want to develop yourself.
Okay.
So, Hanuman is the monkey-faced god, a very unusual being in the Hindu pantheon. But he's very joyful, very, very free. So a lot of the chants to Hanuman will be very melodic and very happy and very rhythmic. People might get up and dance, whereas other gods and goddesses would be for developing peace, or Shiva.
Peace.
Or, or Shiva might be if there are things in your life that you would like to dissolve. Shiva would be an energy for that. So, so it's happening on a lot of different levels. But that's a mantra. It's usually short, maybe 5 words, would be a mantra, and then you would repeat. And then there's also...
And then you can change timing and rhythm and everything. I want you to continue. We have a caller who would like to ask you a question.
Sure.
Good morning, caller. What's your name, please? How can we help you?
Yeah, this is David from Livingston. One of my favorite people is Kathleen.
Hi, David.
Hi, David.
She's down an art gallery, and her beautiful art was in it, and I have some in my home.
Great.
I love Kirtan. I love doing bhajans, and I had an experience a number of times more recently, in recent years, where when we really got into the Kirtan, I started smelling this beautiful aroma that wasn't in the room before. And this happened in San Diego, and then it's happened in Livingston. And I'm wondering if you've had that experience, and if, along with the healing tonalities, good for different parts of our bodily systems, if you've studied anything regarding the aromas that can arise when we are in that kind of blissful, Shakti blissful state, where we're really kind of in alignment with our source and the beauty, as well as the harmony, and then the aroma that arises.
Yeah. No, that's really an excellent point. That we had mentioned earlier in the show, trying to combine different, combine art and music, and that's something else I've thought of is, I actually just wrote an article yesterday on the aromas and the incense associated with different Hindu deities. I have not had the experience of actually smelling something that wasn't there before, but what I've looked at is, could we introduce, diffusing an essential oil? Say you were going to have a kirtan that was all devoted to a particular goddess or, a particular purpose, that you would have an incense that was related to that would bring in, another dimension. Mm-hmm. So the ones that I was researching for the article yesterday, frankincense, sandalwood, patchouli, neroli, rose, of course, is considered to be an essential oil with the very highest vibration. So yeah, that it would be fantastic to be able to bring that element in and introduce that. My experience has been the only things that I have experienced that were unusual is hearing other things happening during the chanting. For example, I had one experience where I was chanting with a small group of people. There were probably a total of maybe a dozen people in the room, maybe 14, and half a dozen musicians. But every time we started chanting, it sounded like there was a whole choir. And I kept opening my eyes and looking like did a whole lot of people come into the room while I had my eyes closed? And I would open my eyes and it was the same number of people there. But it was like hearing that it felt like there were other beings who were chanting along with us on some other level. And I had a similar experience, as we mentioned earlier. My husband sometimes plays the recorder with us, so that's like a wooden flute. And sometimes we've had Letitia play a classical flute, and we had a classical flute player a year or so ago. But in this particular kirtan, I kept hearing a flute. We were chanting, and I could hear this flute playing, this beautiful flute. And I kept opening my eyes and looking over at my husband, and he was playing his drum. Yeah. And I thought it was very strange. So when the kirtan was over, I talked to Marius, and I said, gosh, I kept hearing a flute. And he looked at me, and he said, really? He wasn't playing the flute? Because I heard it too.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, there's something that goes on at other levels, and bringing in incense, which is a very very powerful thing to bring in essential oils or incense. I think that would be a fantastic addition.
Huh. Interesting.
Could I just say one other thing?
Go for it, David.
I'm still on. You're welcome to play in Livingston with us anytime you desire.
Thank you.
And we'll pay your entire group. We love you guys. I look forward to seeing you in person.
All right, great. We'll be in touch.
All right. Thank you, David.
Okay.
All the best. Bye. All right. We are hitting another break here, folks, with Kathleen Karlsen as we're talking about a Shakti Bliss Kirtan. And we're talking about her book called Vocal Medicine, Transformation Through Sound. Very interesting how music and rhythm and sound can create alignment of the energy centers in your body. We have a lot more to talk about that when we come back. Hopefully you stay tuned all the way. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Gesundheit with Jacobus. We're halfway through. What you're hearing in the background is Kathleen Karlsen, and she is singing with the Shakti Bliss Kirtan Band. These are about 5 or 6 people, right?
Mm-hmm.
6, 7, 5, 6. Who are, this is a studio recording. And there are moments you can actually go to her website, Kathleen Karlsen. Karlsen is spelled Karlsen, Karlsen.com. And then you can listen to, when you go to the music page, you can find more songs. And you hear a bunch of them that are just her with the harmonium, as you heard in the first hour. So, very nice. Very, very nice music. Anyway, nice to be with you this morning. I got a question for you. I do know quite a few people in the audience are very strongly part of Christianity. And to them, they listened to this and said, wait a second, you're not singing to Jesus, you're not singing to God, you're not singing to the Lord, it's not a gospel, any of that. How do you react to that? They may feel it's kind of a heathen thing. Who you're singing to, who are you adoring over here? Tell us a little bit about how you deal with that, or how would you explain, what would you explain to these people?
Okay. So first of all, we are probably one of the only Kirtan bands that will sing Christian songs as well. You know, some people go into Kirtan as because they've had problems in Christianity, you know, for whatever reason. And so they go to a more Eastern approach. And that's not my situation. You know, I love Christianity. I love any expression of devotion to God. So in terms of like the goddesses and things, so we have actually done things like, Amazing Grace or Michael Row the Boat Ashore, Kumbaya, Christian songs in our Kirtan. But also I look at it as all of these different beings, whether it's a saint or a god or a goddess, they're all different aspects of God. So ultimately, it's all one. So, Krishna Das, for example, who was one of the...
What's the name?
Krishna Das. He came and played a concert here about a year ago, and he is sort of the grandfather of Kirtan in America. He's Grammy nominee. Any rate, I went to a workshop with him, and one of the way that he explained it was, these are all different aspects of God's consciousness, and all of them are within you. So whether you are praying to Mother Mary or to Jesus or to a goddess, they're all aspects of God. There's nothing that's outside of God. So it's just a matter of, as you pray to a specific aspect of God, that you are bringing that forth within yourself. So it's, you can think of it as, you're worshiping something external, but you can also say, this is, a mountain is part of God, a river is part of God. You can sing a chant that is bringing that type of energy, the flowing of a river or the burning of a fire. It would be the same kind of thing. You could also sing to Kali, who is a very, very well-known goddess in the Hindu tradition, who is very ferocious. And, it's a form of love that is separating you from things that are not for your highest good. It's not your best life, or, so you would call on that. We would do the same thing to the Holy Spirit, in a Christian tradition. Mm-hmm. So as far as I'm concerned, it's all God. It's all different energies of God. And they're just different traditions. It's just different names for the same kind of thing. So in terms of goddesses, that is an energy or an aspect of God that has not been as not as much in the fore in our culture, and there's a lot of things that go along with that just in our society. But in the Hebrew tradition, for example, I was fascinated to learn that around 500 BC, that they had an entire pantheon. There's a lot of different names for God in the Old Testament, and that they had also had names for the feminine aspect of God, but that those had been removed. So that Shekinah or Shekinah is one of the only ones that is left, and that is the glory of God. So All I'm saying is that, masculine, feminine, at a certain point, it's all the same. But as long as we're living in duality and there's any imbalance, it can be helpful to be chanting or focusing or visualizing or personifying God in a particular form, and then bringing that form into your own consciousness and your own life.
Very well said. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just was thinking about it, and I go, we're singing here about Krishna and Kali and Buddha, and for some people those are words that they have heard, but it means nothing to them, because if it's not Jesus or the Lord or God, then it must be some kind of something bad, And I agree with you. Obviously, in my own studies through life, I am aware that there is obviously, if we have 7 or 8 billion people on the planet, we cannot expect that everybody only lives one way. There is this constant battle going on about freedom of religion, and we are an inclusive society, and we got to let everybody in, and we have to allow them to be whoever they are. And at the same time, we somehow don't agree with it. I mean, you may not have to agree with it, but you can still say, if this is what makes you happy, if this is what inspires you, where you find your inspiration in this life, then that's all good with me. Eventually, we know them by their actions, and with what you have done, and that is so fascinating. Again, I go back to your book, Vocal Medicine, that is available on Amazon and on Barnes & Noble website. You clearly explain that you were happy, you were a hard worker, you were a good person, but there was something when you got introduced to the idea of singing and doing these mantras, bhajans is another word, that you started singing these devotional songs. There was something that it did to you, and you felt so attracted to it, and you felt so drawn to it. It has changed your life, and you see that it has changed your life for the better. And in many ways, you even have had some healing experiences, which is also fascinating. So I think you're not pushing this on anybody. You just say, I guess I'm not the only one who enjoys this, so why don't I start doing this? And people say, yeah, I like that. Let me come over. It's not we have to mandatorily sit in a Kirtan session, but people who experience it say, and close your eyes, even if you, and we'll talk about the Kirtan sessions, but you don't have to participate. You can just sit.
Right.
And sit and listen. And close your eyes. You can lie down. You can sit. You can sit on a pillow, whatever, in a chair. You can stand. You just experience it.
Right.
And I was a little hesitant myself when I came to the session, but it didn't take very long when I just closed my eyes and I just witnessed. I just let it happen and started breathing more calmly and not feel like, okay, what's going on? I literally felt a calming presence come over me. And eventually I just wanted to participate. I wanted to try the songs. And there was times when I was singing along and then I just stopped and listened again, because I thought the rhythm and the balance and the music and the harmony I felt was very pleasant, very warming. And so everybody has their own experience. And for you, I can just see, even when you did the little demo, it was just a 2-minute song, but you were totally into it.
Right.
You were. Didn't take long for you to be totally,
No. And we've had people come and do all kinds of different things. There was one man, very sweet man, was here for a year doing an internship at MSU and came very regularly last year. And he said, is it okay? He was working, his internship was it was like a PhD thing. He was finishing his final thing, which anyone who's been through that has told me it's very intense. So when he would come, sometimes he just wanted to sit in the back and he would just sit there and be there and hear the music and write in his journal, because that was what was therapeutic for him. And that's fine as long as it's, not disturbing your neighbor and interfering with anyone else's experience. It can be very individual. Mm-hmm. And yes, for me, the main the main thing that I've experienced in terms of physical healing with the chanting is that I was on thyroid medication for 20 years or more, from the time I had my second child until a couple of years ago. And, that's the throat chakra. And of course, that is one of the main, chakras that you're activating when you are singing. So what I found was that it wasn't separate. If I was going to chant, then it led me to speak up for myself or to use my voice in other ways in my life. And some of those things are decisions that you've been putting off that are very difficult. An example is that we have 5 children, and 3 of those are now college age. And when my daughter was going to school and I was signing student loans and the loans were piling up, and then I looked ahead and I thought, now if I do this for 5 children, that is going to be an awful lot of debt. And we might run out of the ability to do this before we reach the last one.
Yes.
So I made the decision that we're not going to do this anymore. We just can't sign loans. Well, that was extremely difficult decision because, in our society in particular, being able to send your child to college is like a given. You want them to have a happy, successful life. And therefore, that's a huge thing.
They need to have that base.
Exactly. They would have that base. So to make the decision that we're not in a position to do this anymore and to sit down with her younger brothers and say, okay, here's our situation. If you want to go to college, you're going to have to work hard. You're going to have a scholarship. You're going to have to earn the money yourself. That was very hard to do, but it was necessary. So it was a way of speaking up and saying, here's where the parameters are in my life, So it was those kind of things. And also I went through a period then where I would write in a journal or I would have a conversation with someone, usually from the past, sometimes more recent things. So it was like I had to say those things. I had to work out all the things that I had never said because those things were interfering with my ability to chant. And I loved it so much that I was willing to work through that. Because otherwise I might start to chant and then I would just feel like crying. Or I would start to chant and my throat would just tighten up. And it was like, I could feel it physically. So what happened was, as I worked through all of that, then I thought, well, maybe I don't need to be taking this thyroid medication the way I was before. So I did work with a doctor and I cut back and, just kept working through it, just kept chanting and focusing on healing my throat because I wanted to continue with kirtan and chanting. Then after, it probably took, 6 or 8 months at least. It could have been an entire year of working with that. And then finally I got to the point where I was not taking the medication anymore. My, the blood tests were normal or at least in a range that was close enough to normal that I didn't need medication. All the symptoms that I had, dry, cracked hands in the winter, dry skin, exhaustion, those kind of things.
Apathy, insomnia.
They were, they were gone. So
hoarse voice.
What's that?
Hoarse voice.
Is no, I never had that one.
No, I don't think you did.
So at any rate, so yes, when you're chanting, it's, you're vibrating all of your body. It's like an internal massage. So, you're sending that energy and you can do it consciously. It's going to happen anyways because, you're singing and you're vibrating. The sound is coming from within to the outside. But you can also consciously send that energy if you wanted to. For me, it wasn't. For me, it was just trying to remove a block to chanting. And now, if I listen back to myself, the early recordings that I have from a couple of years ago, now the sound is a little fuller and a little deeper because I think my throat chakra is just more open and clear than it was at that point. So yes, that was probably my major physical healing associated with chanting.
Well, as you mentioned, the throat chakra or the thyroid is where the thyroid is where your throat chakra is. And I have heard indeed that people who have a hard time speaking their voice, speaking who they are, speaking their own truth, being able to speak from the heart. If you're not able to do that, it can result in blockage in the thyroid, and that ends up being a thyroid problem.
Yes.
And I can see that in people who have thyroid problems. I myself was diagnosed with Hashimoto's years ago, and I feel that I am handling it really well. But we have to look at the blood test and see how we're doing. But I think I would wish for everybody to truly find a passion in their life that they can really express themselves. Because finding that passion and living that passion will eventually free you up. That energy that flows through the heart and from the heart to the throat is an energy that is so freeing. It frees you up. And like you say, you did the chanting because you like it. But once you were able to say, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. I want to buy an harmonium. I love the singing. I'm just in a different world. That is a feeling of a passion. And I think that for you to say my voice is better, it's not because you took voice lessons. It simply is because things have cleared up for you. You're more clear about why you're doing this and how you want to do it and where you're going to take it. Yeah. And that is your own path. It's not the next person's path, but it looks like the fact that you have been able to gather people around you. Of course, Andrew, your husband, is participating. That's a great support. I mean, it's huge.
It is.
Right? But then to be able to attract other musicians that just love doing this and found you to be the one that they can do it with. I think that is that is also coming out when you hear the group play. There is a warmth and a spontaneity and you all look at each other and you're working together. And I sometimes see all of you just closing your eyes. Andrew get totally into the voodoo drum, the
voodoo drum,
the udu, whatever.
Yeah, no, that's actually
he totally gets into it.
Yeah, one of the things that happens when I'm trying to lead Kirtan is that oftentimes in Kirtan the chant will start slow. And then as you go along, often the pace will pick up.
Correct.
Some chants are just slow all the way through, but oftentimes that's what happens. So I try to find a way to indicate to the other musicians, okay, when we hit the top of the chant again, we're going to pick up the pace. So I look around and they all have their eyes closed. so there's no way to actually communicate other than I just have to go there, and then
I'm sure they follow
along.
Yeah, they know it because they're listening, but they're in tune. Yeah, it is really really fun.
And go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, that's one of the things that Kirtan shares more with jazz, is that it's not, we don't say we're going to chant this at this speed for three verse, 3 times through, and then we're going to pick it up, and then so it's more. As a Kirtan leader, you are trying to pay attention to the people who are chanting with you, so the people who are coming to participate. And I will be trying to pay attention if people are starting to move around or they're fidgeting, or then I think, okay, now then we need to pick up the pace to sort of re-engage, or maybe this is enough of this one, and now we need to slow down, and everyone needs a break for a minute, just to sit quietly for a minute, to stretch a little, and then we move on to the next chant.
Yeah.
So it's watching what's happening with the other musicians, and then what's happening with the people who are participating, so that we all are having a comfortable and a blissful experience together.
We have a few minutes. Would you like to play a little bit more? Is there a certain song you're thinking about?
Over.
We're getting everything set up. Go ahead. There we go.
Okay. So this is a chant that
you have a couple minutes.
Okay. Yeah. Great. I'll watch here. Yeah. So this is a chant, Loka Samasta. Loka, the full words are Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. And this is a beautiful chant, a very peaceful chant. And the meaning of those words is may all beings be happy and free, and may I contribute in some way to the happiness and freedom of all.
All right. Very nice.
So that one is more like a prayer, that chant. So, that one, it tends to just be very simple and very, I like when I chant that one, I like to really think about the words, like, am I really able to wish for happiness for every being on earth? And so that one is, if you can do that, that's a very deep prayer.
Yeah. Yeah, you talk indeed about in one of your blogs, you talk about being able to forgive others. And you said, too, there comes a point when the memory is so intense that I have learned, you don't tell anybody else what to do, but you have learned to forgive the soul, to love the soul, but you cannot, the personality is a different issue. Personality is a different issue anyway. Well, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. You're going to stay another hour?
I will stay another hour.
We got a lot of stuff to talk about. We thought maybe 2 hours, but I said that's not going to happen. Any case, KathleenKarlsen.com. Karlsen spelled Karlsen. KathleenKarlsen.com. Check it out. We're going to take another break for news and some commercials, and then we will be back with hour number 3. Thanks for listening today. We will be right back.
Welcome back to Gesundheit with Jacobus, Health Talk Radio. Now, your host, Jacobus Hollewijn.
It's an absolute pleasure to be with you. Good morning. Hour number 3, that is correct. Goodness gracious, I often say that it's not cliche, but 3 hours go by very quickly. No, we're only 2 hours in, but I already look at what we still want to discuss with you on the agenda from today, and there is just a lot still to go. We may need 2 extra hours, but we won't be able to get them. So we'll use what we get, and we will enjoy it all the way. My guest, Kathleen Marie Karlsen, I want to read the intro again because I really like it. And for those of you who tune in late, and it gives you another idea about her. Her primary interests have always been the arts, healing, and spirituality. As a teenager, she began to pursue complementary health and alternative philosophies and ideas in earnest. She began to attend conferences and lectures on everything, from Atlantis to Native American prophecies, to the Egyptian pyramids, to color therapies and music therapies. Kathleen attended several universities after high school. She graduated with a bachelor's degree in studio art from the College of William and Mary, a master's degree in humanities with a thesis on the scientific and aesthetic connections between color and sound, which was California State University, and she completed a year of doctoral studies in adult and higher education at Montana State University. She spent over a decade living in intentional communities like Quaker, Sufi, and New Age, eventually meeting her husband Andrew settling in Bozeman, and having a family of 5 children. Kathleen is the author of almost 200 articles and the book Flower Symbols, The Language of Love. In the last decade, she has held over 70 art exhibits and created nearly 100 educational presentations and workshops. Kathleen loves to share her passion for transformation and the healing power of the arts, and she sure does. If you go to her website, KathleenKarlsen.com, and again, Karlsen is spelled Karlsen, then you'll find lots of information. Click on the bar at the top and go either to music, or go to her blog, or go to her art, or go to home, or learn more about her. It's very, very well laid out. I really appreciate it, and it was enjoyable reading. I couldn't get it all read. Sorry, Kathleen. I tried, but it was a lot of reading.
Took years to build, so.
Years to build. There you go. Oh, I feel good. I feel better now. Good. Now, the other thing that she has written is a book that just came out. It's called Vocal Medicine, Transformation Through Sound, an introduction to mantras, chanting, and what was it? Oh, Kirtan. The print didn't come out very good. Luckily, I got the book laying right here. And Kirtan. And so if you are interested in anything that Kathleen is talking about, you do want to get this little book. And by the way, in the back of the book, there is about 30 pages or songs, something like that.
There's 4 chapters. I think there's a little 20, 22, something like that of songs.
I think it's more than that. Yeah, there's a lot of pages. And with the text and the melodies, you can play along and sing along. And then when you go to your music site on your website, then all these songs are number 1 through 20 or whatever, or 22 are all on there. You can actually click and play and then sing along with the song.
Right.
Very nice.
Right.
Very nice. Wow. So if you're interested in this book, Vocal Medicine, learn a little bit about it, you can get it on Amazon, or you can get it on the Barnes & Noble website. I was going to say Borders website, but they don't exist anymore. Any case. Oh, boy. Oh, and if you are interested in calling Kathleen, if you just want to, set up something for a wedding or whatever, it's just dinner music in the background, 406-599-3235, 599-3235. Can I give that number out? It's okay?
Yes,
I mean, I already did. I should have asked you before I gave it out. I should have given you your email, but it's all good. So, very interesting show, and what I really like is your storytelling. I enjoy the way you describe who you are, what you some of the things you've been going through. Obviously, 3 hours is never enough to explain somebody's life, but I can tell just listening to you, your honesty and your happiness of finding what you're doing today, and your gratitude. I can just feel there is a gratitude for life, and that is something that I feel you're trying to share. You're doing your best to share with other people, and to be able to find the band. Andrew was an automatic shoe, and he drew the shortest stick, right?
Well, he actually, that was a surprise for me, because what happened was he helped me buy the harmonium, so he was supporting me trying to learn how to do this, but he wasn't part of it, and He has been a musician. He plays guitar, actually, as well as recorder, and sings, and now Udu drum. He loves folk music. He loves Norwegian, Scandinavian music. He's Norwegian. And Kirtan wasn't his thing. But when I came back from getting some training down in Boulder with Mike Cohen at his Kirtan Leadership Institute, and decided, I'm gonna just start doing this. So I rented space. I started with the Renew Studio, a wonderful studio near Main Street here in Bozeman, and I just sent out notes to friends. I didn't have a website, didn't have a Facebook page, nothing, and rented it there and set up. 2 people came to the first one that I did, and just like 2 hours before it was supposed to start, Andrew shows up. And he says, "Okay, well, I bought you a microphone and I bought you speakers, and I'm going to play with you."
Wow.
So that was the first. And then Marius joined us next. He saw my flyer. He had missed the kirtan, but he said, "Oh, I'm really hardcore kirtan.
Really?
Let's play together."
Huh.
And he's in a number of groups. As actually, my husband actually plays with other groups in town now. So it sort of grew from there. And then another woman came and had played flute when she was like in middle school, and said, "Well, I don't really sing, but I could start taking flute lessons again and play with you."
Mm-hmm.
So we've had a few people come and go, and people. It's really wonderful to have other musicians supporting it as well.
Yeah, it's
turned
great.
into a band.
It's just so funny to say that when you think about bhajans and chanting. We got a band.
Exactly.
But it must be an absolute pleasure. I mean, that you have Andrew to share it with, and that you both say, you both get inspired. I see a lot of songs that are written as that original song by you, Kathleen Karlsen. But to me, if you can do something with your spouse who is your best friend, it's really delight. It almost feels the sun is a little brighter every day when you wake up.
Yes.
That you can do it together.
Yeah.
That you have somebody in your corner.
And it the skill set matches well because he comes from a multimedia background. He is a video producer. That is what he does for a living, and that's what he has education in. And so he knew, he knows the audio stuff, he knows video, he knows all the technological stuff. He knows the software, and I'm learning to do it myself because he's got a full-time job.
Yeah.
But I've got someone where I can literally call him up at work and say, "Hey, can you screen share with me? Because I'm trying to, edit this piece and audition, or I'm trying to create a little video to put on Instagram or something." And it's fantastic, just to have someone right there who's got the equipment and the skills and the willingness. So he is a fantastic support.
Great. When we before we went to the break, after you played some really nice music again, and I hope you do one more piece or maybe two more pieces for the listeners on your harmonium. So for those of you who don't know what an harmonium is, it looks like a church organ, but then only 2 feet wide and about a foot and a half deep, and it has one of those squeeze things in the front that as an audience member you see, and it squeezes like an accordion, and it kind of causes an air effect and an echo effect, or what would you call it? No, it makes a sound.
Yeah,
right?
it makes a nice sound because the air is going over double reeds, so it's got a bass reed and a treble reed for every note. And the style of playing harmonium, it is a drone instrument. So either you're using a stop on the front, like the stops on an organ, to hold a drone. What I tend to do is hold a drone with one finger and then play the melody with the other fingers. So one hand is pumping, so the air is going over the reeds, and then the other hand is holding a drone. I like to hold the drone rather than using the stops, because then you have a lot more flexibility.
But how do you hold the drone with one? You hold it with one finger, your thumb?
Usually thumb, but sometimes the fifth finger. So you're usually holding, you have to be holding a drone that is consonant, not dissonant, with the melody that you're playing.
Okay.
So, consonants and dissonance will come and go when you're playing up and down with the melody. But, if you held a note that was dissonant, not in the harmony for a measure more, it starts to be annoying. It's like irritating.
Oh yeah.
So when you're just using your fingers to hold a drone, the thing is that on a piano there's a pedal. So I used to play the piano, and the pedal is the sustain pedal. So that allows the sound to blend. So there's nothing like that on a harmonium. As soon as you let go of the key, it stops the air, and that stops the sound. So it would be very abrupt. So that's why you're holding a note or holding a drone to make it a smooth sound. And then at the end of a song, for example, you have to hold the keys down as long as you want the sound.
But it is also, it's called an harmonium. It's not called a disharmonium.
Exactly.
Right?
It's a harmonium. Right.
It's supposed to be harmonious.
Yeah. So that was the major shift, from piano to harmonium, was getting used to only playing with one hand and getting used to, sometimes if you're really trying to play a melody and there's a lot of notes in it, you're and you're holding a note at the same time, you end up with very unusual configurations of your finger. You've got one finger sort of jumping over the other one to get up to the next note and that kind of thing.
Right.
So it was, it took 6 months or so, to really get used to the differences.
So if you don't use the bellow, the squeezing thing, then it doesn't make any sound? It has no sound? Okay,
Well, as soon as you stop
Yeah.
pumping on the bellow,
Yeah.
whatever air is left in the instrument will still produce sound.
But if you
as
don't
that air
open that up-
dissipates, then there is no sound.
So if you have the bellow
Closed, there is no sound,
there's no sound.
at all.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay, good.
So you
because
have to be able to
didn't
coordinate
think about it.
both
When,
hands.
when I saw you play, I thought, is she trying to get the special effects out of the instrument?
Well, it's funny because people who are musicians and really pay attention to the subtleties, like some people consider the sign of a good harmonium player to have a smooth and continuous sound. So someone like me, who's not, a virtuoso player, I tend to be pumping the bellows with the beat because that just helps me keep time as well.
Okay.
But some people would say, oh, yeah, she's really totally amateur because she's just like pumping with a beat. But when I was doing the recordings with a DJ here in town and talked to him about that, he said, oh, no. He said, do it the way you do it, because when I slow down, then I pump less. Or if I want more volume, if you want it to get louder, you pump more. He said, don't go to that even steady thing that some people admire because there's less variation.
Oh.
So it just, maybe it's just stylistic. So, I haven't attempted to master having my left hand do something that's not on the count.
Right. Wow, very, very interesting. I mean, I'm sitting over here, I'm looking at it, and of course all of you are going like, I don't know what he is talking about, but it looks really, it's a beautiful wooden box that is open, and it really looks like a little mini organ. And like I said, 2 feet wide, about 1.5 feet long. And how high would you say it is, the way it is all folded out? About 1.5 feet?
Up.
Also about 1.5 feet?
About 1.5 feet.
And then in the front is a squeezy thing, a bellow, what they call it. Yeah, I'm just telling you how I see it, that people have an idea. But it makes an amazing sound, amazing machine. So beautiful stuff. When was the first one made? How old is this instrument? Is this?
That I don't know.
I mean, is it
It was
100,000,
actually not originally made in India.
Oh, it was
made
not?
in France.
But
But the Indians took it over.
as you're talking, I'm thinking France. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I'm not sure when that was. I really don't know. I think
it's
it's
all
hundreds
good.
of years. It's not
It's
thousands.
unimportant.
But it's quite a feat of engineering.
It is. I agree. And the beautiful tone that it holds that tone. Well,
Never needs tuned.
Is that right?
Yeah. If you wanted to
So
change
it is an harmonium.
Yeah. If you wanted to change the tuning on it, you would have to file the metal. What did I call them before? The metal. I can't even remember the name. The things that the air goes across.
Wreath?
The reeds. That's it. The reeds. You'd have to file the reeds to change the tone.
Okay.
So it's going to stay in. It's going to stay in tune unless,
Incredible.
unless the warp, the wood itself,
Or dust
significantly
comes in,
warped,
or-
or you get a piece of gravel stuck in there or something.
Huh.
But it's pretty solid.
522-8255, 522-TALK. So we were talking about mantras and anything you repeat to yourself becomes a mantra, is what you say over here. So you got to be careful. You don't, when you say a personal tagline, you said, I love traveling, I hate running, I am the best, I am the worst. Those are all mantras. If you keep repeating it to yourself, it's kind of your own little thing, right?
Right.
So, yeah. Mantras as coded formulas. So that's that. Now, apparently, the mantras can have a strong effect on the brain. You say the pineal gland or pineal gland, pituitary, the thalamus, and the hypothalamus. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. So when you are singing, the sound is starting like at your diaphragm and through your heart, through your throat, but the sound ends up in your head. So that's where it is, bouncing around inside your skull. So your skull is like a resonant chamber. And in the center of your brain is the pituitary gland, the pineal gland, the hypothalamus, the thalamus. So that's where most of the vibration is happening. So, if you take voice lessons, often people will be told, to sing through the front of your skull. So you're trying to sing through, like your forehead or through the front of your skull, as in, singing through your nose, but not nasally, but just through those bones. So you are vibrating the bones, which are then vibrating these very, very delicate organs in the brain. And those organs, for example, the hypothalamus is helping to regulate your body and helping to regulate the chemistry. So regulating your body through the chemistry. Those glands are considered the master glands in the body.
Yeah.
So what happens then is that oxytocin is released, and oxytocin, of course, is the bonding chemical, most well known for the bonding between a mother and a baby during infancy. So oxytocin helps to release the flow of milk for a mother who is going to be nursing a child. But it also has to do with bonding between adults and bonding between people. So oxytocin is released. Dopamine, which is also considered like the friendship chemical. So when you have a connection to someone, it releases dopamine. So hanging out with your friends is good for your brain.
Yeah.
And then it lowers the stress hormones. So cortisol, for example, is lowered. And this is group singing, not specifically kirtan, but the studies that have been done. Some have been done with Sanskrit, but others are just done with the process of singing in a group. So people come to a group like if you went to group therapy. So you can sit and you can talk about your problems, and that can be extremely helpful. I've done that myself. But you can also come together and you can chant. So you could sing in any tradition or no tradition, or you can get together and sing pop songs, so a sing-along.
Sure.
So even with a sing-along where you don't have a particular sacred or devotional purpose or self-improvement or anything like that in mind, the chemicals are still released. So something happens when people are singing together, breathing together, their heartbeat starts to synchronize. And then these chemicals are released. So there have been studies done now showing that group singing is more effective for relieving depression, anxiety, isolation than group therapy, than talk therapy. So, and I think, depression, anxiety, and isolation are huge, huge problems in our culture, in modern cultures today.
It is.
And
there's more people, but there's more loneliness.
Yeah. So this is, group singing is an antidote. And then for me, when you add the sacred aspect, or even if you just look at it as a self-transformation, I'm singing consciously to transform myself, to be more loving, to be, more fulfill my potential in whatever way, that is necessary. Then you've got a whole nother layer on top of it. So I think then you've got the brain science going, you've got all the chemicals going, and now you have a psychological level and you have a spiritual level as well.
There is actually research done on the effect of sound and harmony on brain levels and cell levels in general. And that to me is so exciting. I've known for a long time about the Swiss scientist Hans Jenny.
Yeah.
Who in 1949, I think, discovered, back in the day, I mean, what did we know at the time? But that when you actually create sound, even if you cannot hear it, when you run that through a combination of machines, it's just fascinating how men were thinking about that at the time, because I've seen pictures where you just see 4 or 5 machines, and then they would end up with something called an oscillator, which converts sound into vibration. And then he would have a little plate on top of the oscillator, like a half-inch on top above it, and put substance on it. And by changing the sound, you could actually create a vibration that would change the shape, the pattern. And we can talk about it, because you probably know a lot more about it than I do. But that is that's fascinating, that indeed sound creates form. And I think that all of us need to understand more how that works, because it's, how do I say, it's one of these important things that we have to become more aware what we say, how, and whatever we do. So anyway, we've got to take a break.
Okay.
I'm yapping away. Folks, stay tuned. We will be right back. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Gesundheit with Jacobus. This was a song by Kathleen Karlsen, who is my guest on the program today. She wrote a book called Vocal Medicine, Transformation Through Sound. She plays a beautiful instrument that you heard. It's called harmonium. She sings along with it. Some songs are original. Many songs, this is kind of where it started, in the East, in the Far East, songs that were devotional to many different deities that are revered in the East. And songs have been written about it, about Lakshmi and Krishna and Buddha. But when it comes to singing like this, the Shakti singing, the Shakti bliss, you can sing gospel songs, you can sing Jewish songs, Hebrew songs, different songs that express a certain devotion to God. And that is what Kathleen is doing. She started a small band. It's called the Shakti Bliss Kirtan Band. Kirtan means singing in a group setting. And then specifically devotional songs, I would say, right?
Yes. And
so she gets together. There's a website, KathleenKarlsen.com. Karlsen spelled Karlsen, KathleenKarlsen.com. You can find different links to music, to art, to the Shakti band. You can also go to Shakti, which is spelled Shakti, Shakti Bliss Kirtan, 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 ShaktiBlissKirtan.com, where you also find a bunch of information and music and photos of the band members. It's very pleasant to look at. And once a month, for sure, she'll be in Bozeman doing an hour and a half session with people, kind of a get-together. You can come, sing along, pay a little entry fee to pay for the expenses, but you come out of there with a different feeling, very positive. So thanks for being here. Thanks for spending 3 hours with me.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah,
That's
I'll
great.
be stuck here by myself for an hour. This is much nicer. So as we are discussing this, just at the end of the last half hour, I was talking about this Swiss scientist Hans Jenny, and you wanted to say something about him as well.
Yeah, there is a yantra, which is it's a symbol, a visual symbol, similar to mandalas. Mandalas tend to be more in the Buddhist tradition. Yantras are more in the Hindu tradition. So a yantra is a symbol, and there is a symbol called the Sri Yantra, and that is the most well-known symbol in the yantra tradition. And when you do what Hans Jenny did in cymatics, where you take a sound and you sound it, and there's a plate often with with steel shavings on it or water or whatever,
milk
and you're seeing,
or flour, yeah.
And you see what form comes out. So when they do that and they use the sound Om, it comes out with a series of triangles, 9 interlocking triangles, which is exactly what is in the Sri Yantra, which has been for thousands of years now considered to be the visual outpicturing of Om. So it's like science now proving that the interconnection that was understood thousands of years ago is actually a physical thing. So that's the origin of the vocal medicine idea, is that it doesn't just work on a sort of woo-woo, spiritual kind of level, but this is actually creating something physically. So every word you speak, every word you sing, sequences of words that you sing in a mantra, they are creating form. And so what we're looking for is to create a harmonious form, to create a strong form, to create a form that is uplifting for ourselves and anyone who participates.
The fact that the technology was not that developed, apparently, thousands of years ago, how is it possible that this symbol, the Sri Yantra symbol, was already known to yogis and Buddhas back in the day, when it took till 1950s or 60s or 70s before we were able to imitate that and find out that it was indeed connected to the Om. People are talking about previous continents. We have many heard about Atlantis. Mm-hmm. Is this a remnant of the continent of Atlantis, that where the technology was and the technology was far advanced than where we are today, is what people are saying?
That is definitely a possible hypothesis. I have not seen anything or read anything that directly connects those in any way. But that is possible. I've thought of that myself. The other thing is that it simply came about by their own inner attunement. Mm-hmm. You know, we have a very busy, loud life that we live compared to a very quiet, meditative life. So, you know, it's also possible that people who spent decades in deep meditation would be able to feel and see interconnections that we don't necessarily see when we're just, you know, distracted with the more outer kind of life that we all tend to live. So, but I do think it is possible that there were technologies that have been lost that prove the same thing that we're now reproving.
Wow, that's really something. I mean, Hans Jenny, what he did for science and sound and making people understand how rhythm and sound can really create shape. We can also, therefore, there are those who actually care about it. I'm one of them. That the whole development of the cell phones, you know, people say, well, energy, and some of you are listening, you go like, what are you talking about energy? Energy doesn't, what are you talking about? But I've asked people, do you have a cell phone? Yes. Tell me how you can communicate with somebody on a cell phone, either in another room, texting, or on the other part of the world. Almost immediate response. You can talk to each other by phone without wires. There's no wire going to a satellite. It's a long wire, right? Literally, all of us can be connected somehow with another person at any time during the day and night. That is done because of energy. Yes, we lay down wires or cables in the ground, and that helps. That's important for the base. But as far as the actual signal, it's all energy. So energy exists. It has just never been more physical as today with all the wireless technology that we have. But that doesn't, therefore, a lot of things in history that we were not always able to explain could actually be explained because they were energy. And if people are able to connect with the past or connect to the future somehow in their being, in their consciousness, then we say, well, that's ridiculous. But it is energy. It works for them, and they have that gift. So I think that the technology today, and what started, in my opinion, with somebody like Hans Jenny, was really has really been huge as far as us all understanding and expanding our awareness, so to say, about what's going on.
You know, one of the beauties of what's happening now is that science is starting to, in effect, prove the principles that have been inherent in both art and music forever. Yeah. So, for example, the Impressionists, who became, and to this day is the most popular genre, so that, you know, Impressionism is bought more, reproductions are bought more than any other type of art. And that was the first form of art that was actually created on a scientific basis. So there was a French chemist who developed the dyes for the tapestries that were used in the French courts. And they were very, very proud. This was a great source of national pride. And they wanted to make sure that their tapestries remained the most beautiful in the world. So they hired this man as a chemist full-time to work with dyes to try to get the most intense colors possible. Huh. And when his name was Miguel Chevrel, and when he had developed the dyes as intensely as possible, then he started to recognize that when he placed certain colors next to other colors, that they appeared to be more intense, even though they were the same. So he started experimenting and figured out which colors placed next to which colors would give the most vibrancy. And it had to do with the science of how our eyes see. So when your eye is going from one color to another, your eyes are oscillating. So when there's a certain level of contrast between those colors, your eyes are oscillating at a different rate. So it's a principle that we have in nature called regular irregularity. So if you look at a tree, if all of the leaves on the tree were identical, it would not be attractive and pleasing. You would lose the aesthetics. It has to have a certain amount of irregularity. So the leaf is blowing, but the leaf is attached to the tree, so it can only blow within certain parameters. So you have the same principle in music. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's very effective and it's very soothing, just to your nervous system when you repeat a chant for a period of time, because you have the parameters of the chant. It's a certain melody. At a certain point, it begins to repeat. Maybe there's a variation, but then it repeats. But every time that chant is sung, there's a slight variation. So there is a regular irregularity about that music, which is similar to this principle in the visual arts that is very soothing to the nervous system.
I see.
And you don't have to, as a musician, you don't have to introduce it. It just happens naturally. Every time you sing, your voice is going to have a slightly different inflection. The volume may change slightly. The musicians may play a slightly different rhythm. So you have that regular irregularity, which for whatever reason is just very soothing to us as humans. That's one of the reasons why we love being in nature, because we have that.
And that is also why certain music, even though the words may not be that way, can cause a lot of disharmonious. I've heard people say before, you never see a fight break out at a classical concert.
No.
But it's interesting because the melodies are very soothing and uplifting, whereby sometimes heavy rock, even though I don't mind listening to it, but I can imagine that if you listen to that through 1,000-watt loudspeakers, that you're bouncing around, and it can cause a lot of energetic disharmony.
Yeah. There was a very graphic example of the power of the arts in the negative sense, as you're speaking about, that happened in 1997. It was called the Pokemon shock syndrome.
Okay.
And so Pokemon at the time was, top of the charts, all over the world, millions probably of kids were watching this show, very, very successful financially. And so they showed a particular episode, and there were 700 kids in Japan that ended up going to the hospital because they had blurred vision, they had headaches, they passed out, they had seizures, they had nausea, and the show was actually taken off the air. So this is just kids watching a TV. This isn't like being at a concert, like full immersion. And they took the show off the air for 4 months and did scientific investigations to figure out what happened. And so it was just a sequence. It was a combination of a sequence of flashing lights and different colored lights. And then, of course, there's music going on that created a form of photosensitive epilepsy with many of these children.
Wow.
So you're right. It can go the other direction as well. It can be it's very, very powerful. So if overused or used in the wrong direction, it could be detrimental. If used in a positive direction, you are creating form, and it can be very healing.
Yeah, and what is it? 20 years ago or so, a book was written called The Mozart Effect, and it explains how the music of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart really has an effect positively on young children's and also adults' brain. Finding harmony, balance, concentration better, it's easier. There is something about the specific music that he wrote that has that effect, different than a Bach or Vivaldi. There's something about the Mozart, and therefore then you have the priests, the monks, with the chanting, which is something like you're doing, but the chanting became very popular in the early to mid 90s. I think there was a couple of CDs came out called Chant, and very powerful stuff. And you Catholic, I grew up Catholic. Those were indeed moments when I heard monks sing in this style. It was it's very right away. if you talk about drawing immediate attention or change, feeling immediate change, you listen to chanting by monks, you're automatically, there is no way that you can feel angry. You just calm down immediately. I don't know if you have ever had that feeling, but that's something that I have experienced when I listen to that music. It's just extremely peaceful and calm. I don't know if anybody else has had that experience, but if you can, check that out. So yes, music, rhythm, sound, all is energy. It's all energy, and it energy affects the physical body. Certain vibrations affect the mind. Others affect the emotions, and there are those who are more on a spiritual level, where you feel inspired, you feel the spirit flow through you, and you just, like I said, you feel inspired. So great stuff.
Yeah, and there is one of the things that I studied when I was in graduate school, and that I wrote a master's thesis about, the connection between color and sound, is that when an infant is born, one of the reasons is believed that they have a very strong startle reflex is that their senses are still merged. So when you turn on a light, when they see a color, they're also hearing a sound. So everything is merged. If you touch an infant, it may actually produce a color in their brain, or it may produce a sound in their brain. So up until 4 months, all of those senses are merged, and then they start to segregate. So as an adult, most of us do not have all of our senses merged. So, if you're listening to a song, you don't necessarily see a color in your brain. But there are people called synesthetes. They have a condition called synesthesia, where those senses remain merged. So if some of them, if you touch their elbow, it creates the color orange. So the touch is connected, smell is connected. If they hear a sound, it creates a color. Or if they see a color, they hear a sound associated with it. And it's very, very individual. So you're not going to say that, a bee is always blue, for example.
Right.
And even within the same family, because there is a genetic connection there, the father and the daughter who are synesthetes, one may say, well, the tone B is green, and the other one says, no, it's always yellow, So at any rate, there's...
So how was that called?
Synesthesia.
Synesthesia. How do you spell sinus in this case?
Let's see. Synesthesia.
SIA.
And that,
Synesthesia.
the condition of synesthesia has also been associated with a variety of musicians and artists, through the centuries. So there are particular classical musicians who would say, I want this piece to be azure, and everyone was supposed to know that means I want it written in B,
Yeah.
So there have been artists. It's sometimes considered to be the artistic. I wouldn't call it a disease, but a characteristic related to people who are great artists. I don't personally have that condition. I just studied it because it was related to my desire to combine the arts.
I think it is all part of it. I think your interests in life and the things that life have offered you have made you who you are today, and therefore, like you say, you haven't studied it, you haven't focused on it specifically, but it has come into your life and you're using it. And if you hadn't known, you wouldn't have the fullness in your sound, you wouldn't have the fullness in your music and in your art, in your paintings that you have today. So it's all part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is definitely, for me, I feel very strongly that this is one of the major things that I came into life that I wanted to do. For example, when I was a teenager, I had been saving money since I was 9 years old or something. And when I got to be 16 or 17, had a driver's license, could be independent, had a few $100. I found that the Edgar Cayce organization, which was in Virginia Beach, about an hour from where I lived at the time, they were offering a conference on the ancient healing temples of Egypt. Of Egypt. Yeah. And so you were mentioning, the connection with ancient civilizations. So I went to that, And I remember, at the time, of course, I'm a teenager, going through the usual, throes of being a teenager, and wasn't sure that there was a God, for example. And so one night they started a meditation and they played Pachelbel's canon. And when I heard that music, I thought, okay, that's it. There's a God. For whatever reason, I couldn't imagine that such beauty could be possible. And if there wasn't a God, then music itself was God.
I see.
So I had a very deep sense of that. And then as the week went on, they were discussing the fact that in the Egyptian pyramids that they were sound chambers and that they were used for healing. So Edgar Cayce himself had been, in his readings where he would, go to sleep, in effect, go into a trance, and he would speak out loud, and they would write down everything he said. He actually was Christian to start. And then started giving what they were calling readings, and gave a reading of a past life of his own, which was a huge conflict for him because he didn't believe in past lives. But this particular one was that he had been a missionary in Egypt, that he had been going out across the world, preaching just the religion of the one God. And when he went back to Egypt, he was over 100 years old. They took him into one of these temples and used sound and color and reversed his age. Basically, he was in his 20s again, and they sent him out on another mission. I thought, wow, could sound and color be
Incredible.
that powerful? So whether I'm ever going to learn how to work with it at that level, I don't know. But I did know at that point, this is key for me, that at some point in my life, that this is what I will be working towards. And it just didn't come about until, I got the education and everything, but then, life happens, and I'm grateful for all of the things that I've done in my life. But it's like all coming back now, like, okay, how do you use these things? And chanting, when I found chanting was the, really keyed me back into that in a very, very strong way.
Wow. It's very impressive. I think that you really, obviously this is a gift that you have, but your gift is going together with your passion. And the fact that you have found people who not only join you with doing a kirtan, but also the people who play with you in the kirtan enhances what you have to offer. And it is and I know that as they play along with you, they get something out of it as well. And so it is really a beautiful thing. And I know there is a caller trying to get in, but we are out of time. And I cannot take the call anymore. So my apologies, caller. I wanted Kathleen to finish her story. And at this point, I cannot take the call. So I want to thank you, Kathleen, very much for being here.
Great joy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And to be honest with you, based on the agenda that we still have to talk about, you should come back.
Okay.
And then we can repeat some of what we did, and then we can move on into other topics that you want to discuss, because there's a lot of wisdom that I'm sure people would enjoy listening to. So thank you very much for being here, Kathleen. I wish you all the best. KathleenKarlsen.com. Please check the website, Kathleen Karlsen, KARLSEN.com, and then check out also when the Shakti Bliss Kirtan band is playing again. The next one should be
Thursday, April 4th, this Thursday, Montana Lotus, 7 o'clock.
Okay, and then next in a few weeks. We'll see you next week.